If you're tired of your social media creating little to no results, or you feel like your content has just gotten stale or maybe even boring, I have a brand new free training for you. It's called the Social Media Hooks and Hacks: How to Save Time and Stand Out. This training is going to help you capture your customers' attention from the very beginning, get them to stop the scroll, engage, and act. You're going to stand out from the competition with branded, unique content. It's time to save time and connect with customers like never before with this 80-minute training. You can get it at crystalmediaco.com/hooks, HOOKS, hooks. Don't delay. Watch this training. It's going to transform your content. You're going to love it. Enjoy. If you have ever wondered what Google AdWords, or now it's called Google Ads, what it is, if you should be using it, if you have been looking at hiring a company and want to know red flags to watch out for, if you want to really understand how to drive foot traffic using Google Ads, how to drive website traffic, and all the different features that are available to you through Google Ads, then you're going to want to listen to this episode. And I will tell you, Vi and I talk about more than just Google Ads. We also kind of go off a little bit of a rant on selling on Amazon and some of the challenges there, as well as the importance of getting reviews. It's so important for you to get reviews. And so we talk about that in this episode as well. If you did not listen to the previous episode, that is part 1 with Vi, where we talk about SEO, search engine optimization, more of the organic marketing. You're not paying for SEO. Be sure to listen to that first. You'll also get to meet Vi a little bit more. The resilience round is happening in that episode, part 2. We're getting really focused and we're just talking about AdWords. And man, it's just like a crash course in AdWords. We cover so much in this episode. You can learn more from Vi and about Vi at viwickam.com, which is VIWICKAM.com. We'll also link to it in the show notes. And let's dive into this episode. Welcome to Rooted in Retail, the show that's dedicated to helping independent retailers thrive in today's ever-evolving retail landscape. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis, and I'm thrilled to have you join me weekly as we explore topics that are vital to the success of your store. From marketing to mindset, money to merchandising, sales to leadership, we'll cover it all. Each episode features interviews with industry experts and accomplished retailers who share their real-life insights and actionable advice. Get ready for a great conversation on how to build your dream business with Rooted in Retail. Vi, welcome back to part 2 of our SEO and AdWords conversation.
Thank you, Crystal. I am so excited to be back here on your podcast.
Yeah. All right. So today we're going to be focusing on the paid aspect of Google.
Yes.
And I get a lot of questions around this topic that I don't know exactly how to answer. So I'm really glad that you are here. I feel like that's kind of this mystery world of AdWords. I feel like a lot of retailers feel that way. It's all magic. Exactly. So you're going to walk us through this magic. Let's kick it off and let's first talk about what is Google AdWords and how can retailers use it?
So Google Ads, which Google changed the name recently because Google really likes changing names. Everybody still calls it AdWords, but Google doesn't call it AdWords anymore. So
okay.
Google Ads is really a combination of a number of different platforms or a number of different offerings. So the standard Google Ads is text-based ads that show up when you search for a specific keyword. So one of the things a lot of people don't realize is that when you do a Google search, those first 1 to 3 results are always paid. So somebody paid to be in that spot. And so if anybody calls you and says they're going to get you on the front page of Google, paying for that spot is the only way you can actually guarantee it.
Interesting.
So that's regular Google Ads, as I call it, or, what used to be called AdWords. And then there are Google Display Ads and the Display Network, which display ads would be things like video ads, which can be on YouTube or they can be displayed other places. But generally speaking, when you think about video ads, YouTube is the Google property of choice. You can have image ads in the display network. So, you can have an image that has text already on it, or you can have an image that doesn't have text, and then you can type in the text to overlay on that image. But basically, that's an image display ad. And then you also have, like an animated GIF or something like that would also be a display ad. So it's like video, but it's showing up in the sidebar on somebody else's website. It's not showing on google.com, but Google's the one that's managing that. It might be showing up on your local newspaper's website, or it might be showing up, any number of blogs on the internet. This is one of the main ways that people with blogs monetize their sites. So display ads, you can choose your audience. So I can say, I want to target women between the ages of 45 and 60 who have income that's known to be in the top 50%, who live in this 60-mile radius or 30-mile radius or 5-mile radius. And the only real limitation is there has to be at least 1,000 people in the audience for Google to target it. So when you're doing audience-based targeting, now there are also limitations, like specific types of advertising won't let you target by zip code because of like equal opportunity, federal regulations relating to things like real estate or, housing and employment are kind of the big ones on that. Okay. But you can advertise your Portland candles to any specific niche or area in Portland, as long as there's 1,000 people.
Got it. Now go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, just a clarifying question with Google Ads. It doesn't have to be local, right? So if you have a physical storefront in Portland, you don't sell online, you can totally target those people that are in your area. But then if you do sell online and you're trying to reach that broader audience, then I would assume, is that going to be more focused on the keywords then versus location?
You would use keywords that don't contain a location, or your targeting is nationwide, or even, you might say, I want to target the US and Canada because Canada shipping is okay, but Europe shipping is too expensive. So I don't want to ship to Europe. Or you could say, I want to do the US and Canada and Mexico and Europe, but I don't want to do South America and I don't want to do Asia. So any selection of towns, counties, states, countries, you can choose it. And you can say, I want to do South America except for Brazil because Brazil has punitive import taxes and I don't want to ship to Brazil. So I can target everything in South America except for Brazil, and that's okay. That's totally allowed on Google in terms of audiences. Where I was going next is with display audiences, the most powerful kind of display audience is called a remarketing audience. And this is especially important. Remarketing is when you show ads to people who have already been to your website. So it might be, there's a number of ways to target within remarketing, but remarketing in general is somebody went to your website and they may or may not have done a certain thing. So if I have 1,000 people who abandoned checkout, I could run a specific retargeting audience for people who abandoned checkouts. If I don't have 1,000 people who abandoned checkout, but I have 1,000 people who added items to the cart, I could market to the 1,000 people who added an item to the cart. Or if I have 1,000 people that visited lime scented candles in the last 90 days, I could market to those people, and I could block out the people who actually completed a checkout and only market to the people who visited the product but didn't buy it.
Awesome. Which I feel like that marketing's probably just because I do know Facebook and Instagram ads, we run those at Crystal Media. I know our remarketing ads tend to perform really well. These are high quality, like hot leads, right? Probably
Hot
that
leads.
warm to hot where
Yep.
they've already been on the site. They already know you, but they didn't, initiate that checkout and complete the checkout, I should say. So that can be such a great ad. I mean, I feel like every e-com should probably be running something like
absolutely.
that.
Even service businesses, local businesses should be running remarketing, provided they have enough traffic to their website that they have that 1,000 visitors minimum that they can remarket it to. So a lot of times for smaller sites and smaller companies, you have to remarket to everybody who's been to your site. It's just you don't have enough audience to break it down. But that by itself is really a powerful tool and tends to perform as well, give or take, as keyword-based targeting.
Okay.
So generally speaking, if you're doing e-commerce, keyword-based selling usually performs the best. Display ads you can think of as softening the ground and, getting in front of people to increase awareness, increase your brand awareness on the internet. You generally don't expect to convert very well on display or video ads. They might convert a little bit, say you have a video ad and you get 1 out of 1,000 people to buy. That's actually pretty good. If you get, 30% of the people watch the video to 30 seconds and 10% of the people or 5% watch the whole thing, and then 1% of those people actually buy, it sounds really low, but for display advertising, that's kind of par for the course.
Is it? Okay.
Whereas for, general conversion rates on the website, once they've been to your website, I expect at least a 1 or 2% conversion rate. So if it's less than 1%.
They've been to the site already, you're saying before?
Or if they're on the site.
On the site, okay.
So either way, if we're remarketing, I expect that when somebody clicks back to the site, there should be at least a 2% chance that they buy at that time. And if they're on our site in general, there should be at least a 1% chance that they're buying.
Okay. Those are great metrics for us to follow.
And it really depends, though, how expensive your product is, how urgent of a need the product is, how, whether this is a repeat visitor who's already bought from you in the past, or this is a new visitor. So, there's always 100 ways to slice and dice the data. And, if somebody's a repeat customer and they're happy with your service, that's your client to lose, as long as they can get a hold of you or they can get to your place or they can buy easily, they're going to buy from you because they like you. They've already got that brand affinity. You have that brand identity to them that you are their first and favorite. If you've got that, you should be closing 75 to 100% of those people.
Okay. I think that, that makes sense.
It may not close on every visit though.
Right.
Because they may come and poke around and come back later, especially if you have a luxury good. I've got a client that sells really nice high-end fishing rods. They have a lot of people that close on the first visit. And then there's some that close on the second visit, some that close on the third visit, some that close on the fourth visit. And then it drops off. And then there's some that close on the 8th and 9th visit. And the 8th and 9th visit is not very far behind the first visit. So there are a lot of people when you have a $500 or $1,000 fancy fishing rod or reel that, they ogle over it for a month or 2 months before they actually come back and buy.
Yep, totally. Yeah. Well, and that's where those remarketing ads are so important because then you remind them. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So
awesome.
Remarketing. And, if you have big enough audiences, you can do that specific remarketing. We're only going to remarket to people who visited a Shimano product, and they're going to get the Shimano remarketing campaign. Or we're only going to visit, remarket to the G Loomis audience with a G Loomis remarketing campaign that contains those products. You could do the same thing with your candle store. We know that this person has cruised the fruity scents on the site, and we're going to show them fruity candles for the next 60 days. And, that's the general idea of display and remarketing. And one of the cool things that is a little harder to do now with the Apple privacy restrictions, but you can still kind of do, is there are what's called an in-market audience. And so some of these things might be, this person is in market for shopping for a car. And so Google has seen behavior that shows that this person's searching for a car right now, or this person's searching for an air conditioner, or they're searching for jewelry, or whatever the thing is. There are in-market audiences, and those can be really powerful for display ads as well. Because Google will know if you search the keyword buy jewelry in Portland, they know that you're looking for jewelry, so they can just tag you with that tag that says this person's looking to buy jewelry. And now you've been added to the jewelry in-market audience. And from here on out, for the next 30 to 60 days, maybe even 90 days, depending on how aggressive the retailer is, you're going to be seeing jewelry ads from multiple jewelers in your area, more than likely, or online, who are selling jewelry, and you fit their target demographic.
Awesome. Okay. Love it. Now, Vi, will you just take a couple minutes and talk about the Apple privacy and some of those issues there? Because I'm sure some retailers have questions or maybe don't even know about it.
All right. Well, the bottom line is primarily Facebook, but also Google, Amazon, and Apple were abusing your privacy, really badly. They're tracking, and they still are. Bottom line, they still are. But Apple made some privacy changes that were very positive, that made it so people had to be more explicit about opting in to allow this stuff. So, for instance, when you're driving down the road using Google Maps or Waze or Apple Maps, they are tracking where you go, how fast you're going, and, whether you stop, which way you turn. All of those things are being tracked, and they're being used to inform, their directions algorithms. And when you're driving down the highway and you see that patch of orange up ahead, the reason they know that is because there are other people using that app that slowed down there, and their algorithm said that's a place where people are slowing down, mark it orange.
Interesting.
So these people are tracking you all the time. It's kind of creepy. Remarketing is kind of creepy, especially if you're doing something that's a sensitive product, there are a number of products that you may not want to do remarketing on. And I'm not going to go into details, but you can follow. Actually, I had a divorce lawyer who was a client that was very sensitive to the idea of remarketing, because if a spouse is searching for a divorce lawyer and he's showing the ads, he may tip off their spouse that this person's wanting a divorce. So, that's an example of something where you got to be careful. You don't want to abuse your client's data, even if they're not your client yet. Right. So the general story is, if you're not paying for the service, you are the product. You're not the customer.
Yep.
So Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon make most of their money, even Amazon. And this is, I don't know if it's most, but Amazon makes a huge amount of their money by selling advertising to people selling products on Amazon. So this is also why Amazon's search has gotten so bad, is because they're showing all the sponsored results before they show the products. And the sponsored results don't necessarily match well.
Right.
And so they're just looking to get you to click on one of these sponsored results So you pay them a little, that person's paying them a little extra money every time it gets clicked on. And, that's all on top of the commission that they take off of every sale, where, if you're an Amazon merchant, you're paying that free shipping. Amazon's not paying it. So if you're reselling things through Amazon, you're paying the free shipping. You are paying Amazon a commission of like 17% on top, so they're taking 17% margin on all your sales, which is more than a lot of people end up, making after all the expenses come out. Amazon's making more money off of other people's sales than they're making off their own sales.
Boo, Amazon, boo.
And the funny thing is the way Amazon's gotten away with it was by making it a really, really easy service to use, by making it, really seamless and painless and very customer centric. And what's happened lately is they've invested so much in their advertising platform on Amazon that they're starting to abuse their customers. And, they've been abusing their merchants for a long time, but now they're abusing their customers. And that's this could be the death knell of Amazon, But when you've got a business that big with that much momentum, this is something you're going to see 10 years from now, because you erode that customer trust by not having a good search, because Amazon search used to be excellent. But now, if you want to find something on Amazon, go search it on Google, and the Amazon result for the right product's going to show up. It's not going to show up when you search for it on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You're right. It's so big. It might take a while to see that, but something better is going to come. I want to come back real quick to privacy. And then we'll move on and talk more about our Google ads here. But with the new privacy, that basically means that there's more protection of the customer. So you don't have as much information as you used to. And if I understand it correctly, the user, you have to opt in to be tracked and to receive some of these remarketing ads, right? Versus opting out.
That's correct. And this has hurt people advertising on Facebook more than people advertising on Google, because Facebook was abusing their customers worse than Google was. I mean, that's, the Cambridge Analytica stuff really brought that to a head. And, there was just, and it wasn't just Facebook. Let's be clear. Everybody was doing it, and it was really bad for public trust. Exactly. And so Apple took that move to make it harder for those big platforms to take all of the data when somebody's using an Apple device. And the customer, the Apple customer, has to opt into sharing that data now instead of having to opt out of sharing that data now. So that's the bottom line. But
that's really helpful. Yeah, no, these are good things for us to know. So we know kind of what we have access to, what we can do, the in-market. I love the in-market aspect for targeting those types of people. Let's talk about a brick and mortar who doesn't sell online. What would be some of your advice I'm sure there's a lot of different strategies, but maybe a couple of ways that they could be using Google Ads to drive foot traffic?
Absolutely. So the Maps extension, or the address extension, and the phone extension are kind of your first go-tos for, a local business. So you want to be showing when they search those keywords in a localized way. So that's a keyword ad, but you also want to show up in the Maps area, because that's where local businesses generally show up. And the first result in the Maps area is
paid.
Correct. So as long as somebody's willing to pay for that spot, that first spot in the Maps is a paid spot. So generally speaking, that's also something that's really important to run an ad in, is with the address extensions, or the Maps extensions, as some people call them. but that address extension shows your Google business profile when they click on it. It doesn't go to your website. So Google loves that. They'd much rather keep them on Google than take them off site to your website. So the Google business is really a key. And, like we mentioned yesterday, if it's a local service business, and there's a whole list of which ones Google allows, but, things like lawyers and photographers, specific types of photographers, I think, home service businesses like electricians, plumbers, HVAC companies, lawn services, tree trimmers, those kind of businesses can all get the Google guaranteed local service ads. And if you can do local service ads, that's another really efficient local business strategy for getting leads.
Okay, so if any retailer that's listening to this right now does also offer some sort of service, I'm thinking like our pet stores that have grooming.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome.
And you've got to just go to the Google. There's a page on Google that says, here's the types of businesses that qualify for running local service ads. I don't know the exhaustive list because there's like 30 types of businesses who are allowed to run those ads. But when you do that, Google actually insures that transaction, and you have to verify that you have insurance and that you've had background checks done on your technicians or whoever it is that's doing the work. And, You have a license with the state if licensing is required and all those kind of things.
Interesting. Okay. So that could be good for some of our people listening as well.
Yeah.
So it's really about the maps.
Maps is
super
key.
important. Yeah.
And like your Google business profile goes right along with that, because you need to have a really strong Google business listing to show up when people search for you. So, optimizing that with a service, which isn't an ad, but, using something like Get Listed to optimize your Google My Business profile is really important. And I think it's also important to look at that there are other sites that do pay-per-click advertising beyond Google. So Google is the biggest one. It covers 80 to 90%, depending on when you look at it, of the search traffic happening. YouTube is number 2, which is a Google property. And if you want to run video ads, and I suggest if you're running video ads, running pre-roll ads and either targeting them by site, by location, or by channel. And that, YouTube ads, video ads can be a very effective form of Google ads. But we need to also look at things like Bing and Yelp. And if you're a service business, something like Angie's List, as options for connecting with your customers that are also pay-per-click or pay-per-acquisition methods of advertising.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. That could really connect to that local audience. Now, I have a quick question about tracking, because with specifically for our brick and mortars with our local, because e-com is a lot easier to track. But it's harder to track when people come into the store from an ad. I know you can track, like if they clicked on the ad on the website, went to the website, if they click the phone number to call. But there is an element of not being able to track, right, Vi? Like what do you recommend on how they can track it? There is some stuff
you can't track. So, if you're a local retail business, you can track how many people clicked on your Google business profile, and you can see if your advertising drove that. So that's something you can track within your ad extensions, which ad extensions is what they called them for the last 15 years. And just in the last couple months, they changed them to call them assets. So, just like Google isn't AdWords anymore, it's ads. Ad extensions is now ad assets.
Okay.
But the asset for your address does allow some tracking of, Did people click on it? Did people click for directions? Did they click to call once they went there? So those are things you can check. So that, especially the directions, if you're looking to drive foot traffic, the directions can be indicative, but it's not going to be 100%. It's not even going to be close to 100% because, a lot of people will see the address and then they're like, I know how to get there. They don't have to click for directions. If I see that something's on 4th Street here in Loveland, I'm like, okay, I know where that is.
Yep, exactly. So, that's a good point. Okay.
So, but if people clicked on your Google business, on your address asset, and go to your Google business profile, formerly Google My Business, formerly Google Maps, formerly...
They're nuts. Oh,
they're nuts. They got to change the names as often as possible.
Okay. So that's really helpful. And as you're in store, retailers asking what brought people in, we always want to ask and have that conversation, and the consumer doesn't always remember
for sure
or doesn't always know, but we really want to, especially when we're investing money, if you're paying for these ads, we want to know what's bringing people in. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about budgets. How that is one of the biggest questions we get from a Facebook and Instagram ads perspective is, what should my budget be? So Vi, how would you answer that question? $1 million. Yes. But how do you work with your clients from a budget perspective? How does that work?
So what I generally look at is, if we have things we can measure, we look at what are those things worth. The most ideal situation is we have a client that has e-commerce, or they have an integrated CRM that allows tracking of clicks all the way through to scheduled appointments if it's a service business, or something like that, where we have really, very good, clear metrics. And I can say, this campaign cost us $1,200 last month, and it generated $18,000 in sales. That's a 15 to 1 return on investment. That's fantastic. A return on ad spend is very often how we'll measure something like that. So I look at a return on ad spend for branded keywords. So those would be keywords who I searched for Sally Sue's Portland candle shop, and I found that her ad was the first thing that showed up, and I clicked on the ad. I expect that is going to convert at 75%. She's coming into the store or she's buying something. But if she just searched for Portland Candle Company, it's going to depend on the competition in the market and how far she is away from you and those kind of things on what the odds are that she's coming into your store. So, Google business profiles are optimized based on distance is one of the factors. So distance and keywords and the number of reviews are 3 very important factors. So if somebody's really close to you, you're more likely to show up. If you have more reviews than any of your competitors, you're more likely to show up. And if you use the keyword that they searched for in your description or in your services listed, or on your website that is linked in that profile, you're more likely to show up. So those are the kind of the biggest factors when it comes to showing up in your Google business profile. And those are the things that we're looking to optimize for if I'm doing marketing for a company and they want me to optimize their Google business profile.
Retailers, it is time to step out of the day-to-day of running your store and step into a new perspective. I would like to invite you to join me in Denver, Colorado at my conference, Evolve. This is built for independent retailers looking to transform their business. Retail is changing faster than we have ever seen before. So is marketing, and so are the tools to help us build our business. This conference is one of the best places for you to stay up to date and stay relevant. And it's super, super early bird pricing right now. So you can get a ticket for as low as $197. Go to crystalmediaco.com/evolve to secure your ticket. And I can't wait to see you in Denver and help transform and grow your store. Now, and each of those things, obviously the cost can vary. There's so many variables. Do you have like a recommended starting budget as far as percentage of revenue? Or, you were saying like it does depend on what these things are worth, but how does that kind of start, how do you start that budget conversation?
So there are always a lot of factors involved.
Yeah.
And it's going to depend on the size of your business and the opportunity and what you're looking to drive. So I generally expect that branded keywords should give me at least a 10x return on spend. So very often it's 20 or 30 or 50x return on spend. So I have one client who their cost to revenue ratio on their branded keywords 1 month was 0.25%, which means it was 400 to 1 return.
Wow.
Meaning somebody searched for them by name.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You put $1 into the Google machine and you get $400 back. I like that.
Now, average for non-branded keywords, I usually find like a 6 to 10x return on ad spend. That's kind of the ballpark that I think is acceptable. If it's less than 6x return on ad spend, we got to fix something. Something's not working right.
Okay.
Then competitor keywords is the next bucket, which is one of those things people have strong opinions about. I don't have strong opinions, but I totally understand the people who are offended by it and find it to be reprehensible. But it's where you bid on your competitor's company name. And from my perspective, the close rates on those are dramatically lower than either of the other two buckets.
Okay.
So say, I'm Sally Sue's candle shop and Betty Lou has a candle shop too. And I bid on Betty Lou. The person who searches for Betty Lou is Betty Lou's customer to lose, right? We're expecting Betty Lou is converting 75 to 100% of those customers. So I already have a 75% less chance of getting that person than if it was a generic keyword. So if you take that 6 to 10x and you get rid of 75% of that right off the bat, you're talking about like 1.5 to 3x or, 1 to 3x. And so, my experience is it's more like 0.5% to 3% is your range for competitor keywords. So a lot of people lose money bidding on competitive keywords, and I generally recommend against it unless we've exhausted all other possibilities. Or the customer's just dead set that they really want to do this. And I'm like, I don't recommend it for you right now, but if it's your money, like, it's not my money I'm spending, it's theirs. So they ultimately drive the ship, and I just try to steer it in the direction that's going to make them the most money, give them the most efficient spend that I can.
Mm-hmm. That's really good to know about the competitor, because I bet that we have that desire to reach some of the big boxes or the candle store down the street, but it does not sound like that's the best place to start. You could probably
It is not where you start. It's like, step 5 or 6 down the road. Once you've got your keywords all locked in on your good keywords, you've got your maps or LSA, you've got your generic keywords, and you start with the ones that are, the ones that you think are going to close the best, your services or products that you have the best margin on. So, look at those things that, if ads management is what's your best margin service, then ads management is the first thing we're going to run ads for.
Right.
Whatever it is, if the thing is the thing that works the best for me, it's the thing that drives my business, that's the first thing we want to advertise. Once we've reached the bottom of that list, Then we're doing display ads and remarketing ads. So, all the way at the end is bidding on competitors' names. And a lot of people are offended by it. And I don't ever push for that.
Yeah. Okay. I could see using consumer known brands that you sell.
Sure.
There might be like Vera Bradley, Pandora, Yeti, Yankee Candle. Those things could be great because if they're searching for the brand and you sell it and you're close to them, since Google's looking at that and you have a lot of reviews. I just want to echo that and say it again. If anybody's multitasking, get those reviews because that's going to help you show up. Yeah, they really matter. So we really want to work at getting those reviews. And we did an episode with Yelp and we talked about how to get those reviews. It's a Yelp perspective. You want to focus on Google as well, but we'll link to that
Yelp
episode.
And Yelp doesn't want you to ask for reviews.
Right.
They really discourage everybody from asking for reviews. What I can tell you is a lot of people still do it and they do it effectively. I'm not going to tell you to do it, but people do it. Yelp discourages you. If you want to follow Yelp's rules and make sure they don't smack you down, but they might smack you down anyway, you don't do that. Don't ask for reviews on Yelp, but do ask for reviews on Google and Facebook. And I would recommend using a review service where you send them an email. Grade Us is one that I've used, but there's a bunch of them out there. A lot of CRMs have something like this built into them. Where it sends them an email that says, how did we do? And gives them a star rating from 1 to 5. And if they choose 4 or 5, it says, that's awesome. We're so glad you enjoyed your experience with us today. Would you please share this on Google or Facebook? And just gives them a link to write the review on Google or Facebook. And if you give them 3 stars or less, it says, we're so sorry we disappointed you. What can we do to make things right? Cool. And that's it. So it only gives them the option to share a review if they're happy. And I strongly recommend if you're soliciting reviews to use a service like that. Generally speaking, they start at, $50 to $100 a month and go up from there. But you want to use one that has that kind of a system in place. And don't use one where the review lives on the system's website. Use one where the reviews go directly to Facebook and Google, because those companies and Trustpilot and User something, there's a few of them out there that they really focus on getting the reviews to live on their site. And then when you decide that you don't like them anymore and you fire them, then they all those reviews basically go away.
That's terrible. That's a great tip.
It is totally terrible.
You said Grade Us is one that you use.
Yeah, Grade is one. Grade Us, it's grade.us is one that I've used a number of times. And it's a solid service. I think it's like $150 a month, if I recall correctly.
Okay. Yeah. And I know Podium, our partners at Podium.
Yeah, Podium's another one.
Stuff.
Podium's good.
Yeah. Yep. They're a great one. So to close out
just
this
make
budget,
sure when you set up Podium that you set it up to post directly, because Podium has an option that you can let them post reviews on Podium, which those reviews on Podium really are not that valuable to you.
Exactly. Okay.
You want the reviews on Facebook and Google and Yelp. Those are really the ones that matter.
Okay. Awesome. Love it. Man, there's so much we're talking about in here. To close out the budget, it's really going to come down, like if I had a monthly budget, it's going to come down to the size of my business, what my advertising budget is.
You asked about percentage of revenue.
Yeah.
I generally look at your entire digital spend, including management, should be around 5% of revenue.
Okay. Great.
And depending on your size, you may or may not be able to do that right now, but that's a good starting point.
Okay. Awesome. Love having a starting point. Now let's talk about some red flags. We talked about red flags with hiring an SEO company. What would be some red flags if you can kind of fire these off? If somebody is looking to hire an ads company, because really for you to set this up, I just feel like it's better. It's more worth your time and money to have somebody do this for you that knows what they're doing, that can be tracking it and testing. There's just so many variables and so many things you can do. So what kind of red flags would you watch out for when hiring an ads company for Google?
Well, the first red flag would be if they want to control the ads account and don't want to let you have your own ads account that they have access to. If they want to control your ads account and you fire them, you're going to have 1 to 3 months of pain when you fire them, no matter what you do. And that's just, you're setting yourself up to fail from the get-go. If you do that, I strongly, strongly recommend that you keep control of your ads account. So you want your own Google Ads account that you share a manager role with whoever's managing your ads. And this is how Google has it set up. It's that this is Google's best practices way to do it. But there are a ton of big marketing agencies that say we don't do it that way. We have to manage it from within our own account. And if they say that, run and run fast. If you don't have management administration control of your ads account, you are going to get screwed.
And I just want, for all the listeners, Vi's making a big point out of this because he's seen it happen. And it is painful. Again. It is painful. And this actually just happened with one of our insiders. Dustin went to go try to help her. She's a local business, and this happened to her from a Facebook perspective where they did everything on their side. So it's, really hammering it home. Yeah.
Same thing can happen with Facebook or any of the other platforms. If you don't have control of your own account, you will get taken advantage of. Guaranteed. Yep. So the second thing is what I mentioned about SEO, transparency. Yeah. So you've got to have full transparency to the data, which if you've got your own ads account, you can always log in and look at it. If you don't have your own ads account, you can't look at it. So the third thing would be reporting. You've got to have reporting at least on a monthly basis. I generally think for most companies, monthly basis reporting is perfect. You don't need more often than that. If you get too stuck in the weeds of looking at it every day, you're just going to cause headaches and pain for yourself because that's not how it works. You don't have enough data on a daily basis to make any decisions. Okay. So unless you're doing $250 million in revenue, you're not going to have anything useful more than once a week.
Okay.
Even if you're doing 30 or $40 million in revenue, this is like a twice a month review kind of situation.
Okay. Perfect.
So, so that's once a month is the minimum, and it's also the maximum for most businesses. Once a month is a good frequency of reporting and review, and you should actually be having some sort of a contact with them to go along with that reporting, because a lot of companies, send you the report and there's no interaction. And, so that would be number 4. Number 5 would be negative keywords. So they should be sending you a list of negative keywords of here are the keywords that we recommend you should block. And either the way I do it is, the things that I obviously think should be blocked, we block. If there are things that are questionable, I'll ask the customer, is this something you want us to block? And, I may give them a list of 10 or 20 or 50 keywords, depending on, where we're at in the process. Here's the things I'm not sure about. Do you want us to block these or let them run? And, let it be up to the customer. And as the customer, you need to be responsive, because not all customers ever respond to those emails. And if you're not responding, you're missing out on half the value of those negative keywords. And what negative keywords are is those are the keywords that I choose to not show up for. So say I sell white tennis shoes and I want every other color I don't sell any color but white. But if somebody searches for black tennis shoes, red tennis shoes, green tennis shoes, I want a list of all those other colors that I don't sell to make sure that my ad doesn't show when somebody searches for tennis shoes of all those other colors.
Mm-hmm. Because if it shows, you'll be charged money, and we don't want to waste that money. Yeah.
And even if you show and don't get the click, because you only pay when you click, you're decreasing Google's opinion of your ad, because click-through rate on your ad is one of the measurement metrics that Google uses to decide how much you have to pay for that click. So we haven't gone into any of the details of things like quality score, cost per click, cost per acquisition, return on ad spend, bidding. But basically on the bidding side, you need to be asking them, how are they bidding? Because Google, the default setup for Google for a long, long time was just cost per click. So you would pay this many dollars per click. Then, and you'd pay whatever you bid. Then your bid, there were services that would adjust your bid up and down based on the competition. And Google was like, well, we could do that. We can put those guys out of business. And so they made it so if I bid 50 cents and the next closest bid is 40 cents, I only have to pay 41 cents. And so that's how the regular cost per click model works. But then Google changed to an enhanced cost per click model where you would, it would do some adjusting of this keyword, cost less than this keyword, even if the bid on the whole campaign was this. So some keywords would get adjusted up, some keywords would get adjusted down, but it was kind of like mini adjustments that Google would make for you. And just in the last couple of years, Google has introduced machine learning algorithms that allow you to bid on target cost per acquisition or return on ad spend. And those can be far more efficient bidding models than just using a regular cost per click, because Google's AI, their machine learning algorithms, can target the keywords that end up making you more money.
Interesting.
So Google will automatically funnel the money to the clicks and the keywords that it finds to be more productive for you. And what I can say is when they first came out, they were terrible. And now running a Google Performance Max campaign, which is a specific type of AdWords campaign, Google Ads campaign, that has machine learning algorithm stuff going on that allows you to put in multiple titles, multiple descriptions, some images, a video or two, and it like jumbles it all together, and then it shows these things to people that it thinks are going to buy. So it's kind of one of those things that we always are doing in addition to the other things we've talked about, because it tends to be a pretty low cost per lead option for most of our customers.
Yeah. Now, if anybody's listening to this, you're probably feeling like, oh, this is very complex. There are so many things. And this just flew by our time here today, because there are so many things that go into this, but it's important to understand. And it was my goal for Vi to be here to really kind of break it down so we understand the basics and how we can leverage and how it works and really get a taste for what is possible. And I feel like we really covered that, as well as those red flags to watch out for. And
in terms of red flags, one more thing. If they're not giving you any kind of metrics beyond like how much you spent and how many clicks you got, they're not setting up the analytics right, and they don't have fully transparent data. Now, it's possible that that's your fault because you don't have things to track, but it's their responsibility to have that conversation with you about what are the things we can track here.
Okay, good. Such good things for us to know. So we are not getting taken advantage of. And so we are
Don't
really
get
seeing our
taken.
money work for us. Yeah. And I just want to echo one thing before I ask my final question here. Actually, I have two final
You
questions
bet.
for you. One's very fast.
All
Um,
right.
is that because we have an ads agency at Crystal Media, I'm always surprised by how many people don't open the emails, read the reports, or
Oh,
set up
yeah.
a meeting to go over the reports. I
Yep.
know that we are busy business owners and retailers are so busy, but I just feel that it's so incredibly important for you to understand how the money is being spent and how it is building your business, or if there are things to tweak.
Yeah.
We really want, don't push that off. It's not always the fun side of it or the creative side of the business, but we are spending money, and I want you to really understand how it's being spent and where those results are, especially, when with something like AdWords or Facebook. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
echo, what you said there.
100%. And
Yeah.
it's not an urgent thing. So as a business owner, it doesn't feel like an urgent thing to go over those keywords with whoever's managing your Google ads. It doesn't feel urgent to let them know which of these keywords you should be blocking or not blocking. And it absolutely can make a huge difference. If we're doing this actively, I have found that within 6 months, we very often will increase your return on investment by 30 or 40%. Now, if you think about increasing your return on investment by 30 or 40% in the first 6 months of managing it, that doesn't happen unless you're involved in the process.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay. So good. So Vi, we did kind of cover this, but just to say it sort of again and very, very forward. If a
You bet.
retailer wants to get started with Google Ads, where is a good starting place for them?
Well, I would recommend going to viwickam.com/digital weasel. And it has all of the things. There's a form on there that you can fill out to get control of your digital assets and find out what things you do and don't have control of. And that is the biggest, most important thing if you want to avoid being taken advantage of. Get all of your assets under your roof, under your control. Your Facebook, your Google assets, which there's like 6 or 7 of them. They're all on viwickam.com on my website. It's all free. You can do this yourself. If you don't want to do it yourself, you can hire us to do a digital audit, and we will help walk you through that whole process. And we'll also do assessments of your website and, a bunch of other stuff. But get control of your stuff. Get it all under your control. And then you can decide, do I want to try to do this myself? Google has a lot of resources where you can read up on it, but it is not easy. I've had a number of people that have asked me to train them on Google Analytics or Google Ads, and I'm happy to do that. And what they realize after 2 or 3 hours of doing this, learning with me, they're like, I think I'd rather pay you to do this.
Yep. Yeah, we
and
don't
it
want to live
changes
it.
all the time too. Like,
Yes, exactly.
with Facebook,
Yeah.
that, the metaverse and all of the changes with the ads management platform, it's maddening. Like, sometimes it just makes me want to bang my head against the wall because everything changes all the time. There's new types of ads. There's new types of bidding. There's, everything is always changing. And if you don't like that and you aren't going to stay on top of it yourself, you need to hire a professional to manage it for you. Otherwise, It's a good way to flush your money down the toilet.
Exactly.
Just take out $1,000, light it on fire, throw it up in the air. You might get the same result.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to be doing that. This was so good. My final question is, because in part 1 and part 2, we talked a lot about candles, and you specifically talked a lot about lime scented candles. So what is your favorite candle scent?
Oh, that's a good question. I do really like the fruit scented candles.
Okay.
But I also like the cool water kind of fresh Atlantic breeze kind of scented candles.
Okay, I love it. I was dying to know. Vi, where can people learn more? I know you said viwickam.com/a-digital weasel, which we will
But you can just go to
that.
viwickam.com and you can click on the link there. But
perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to be here with you, Crystal.
So good. It's like we did a little crash course masterclass in SEO on part 1 and at Google Ads in part 2. Really appreciate your time and your knowledge and just sharing. This really means a lot. Thank you so much, Vi.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Crystal. Anytime. I'm always happy to come back on your podcast.
Awesome. Oh, I will totally take you up on that. And everyone listening, remember that I'm rooting for your success. Have a great week ahead. Bye. Thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me. Don't forget to join the Rise and Shine newsletter, which is social media news you need to know, sent via email every Monday morning. Go to crystalmediaco.com/rise to join. And don't miss the newest episode of Rooted in Retail, which drops every Sunday morning.